What would happen if I told you that the most shocking return of the whole season was not the fastest, but the most perfect? What if I also tell you that it was made by Hamilton and that it evidenced Ferrari's own car, Monza? More than a track, a sacred temple of Formula One. Every curve, each line, each braking, acts as a polygraph of mechanical truth. It is here where technical lies crumble and myths are built. What happened with Lewis Hamilton in this race was not a simple good performance. It was a silent earthquake that shook the foundations of Ferrari's technical analysis. No one saw him coming. While the headlines focused on the fight for the podium or spectacular overtaking, a very different reaction was lived in Ferrari, paralyzed engineers in front of a telemetry screen. What they saw not only the expectations, but everything they thought they could know about their own car. For the first time throughout the season, the SF25 data showed no erratic oscillations or tension losses when braking. Hamilton's graphics were clean, soft, technically almost impossible. The longitudinal stability graphics were manual, beeline, without brakes, without micro-corrections, no induced vibrations. That not only indicated a stable car, indicated a pilot who was reading every millimeter of the asphalt as if the SF25 was a direct extension of his nervous system. And that, for the engineers who had spent more than half a year fighting unpredictable behaviors of the rear axle, was disconcerting. But that was just the beginning. When the lateral acceleration curves in high-load areas were analyzed, such as Lesmo 2, they found an even more shocking pattern. Hamilton maintained an output speed of 246 km per hour return after return, without the need for correction in the direction or indications of loss of adhesion. How is it possible that the same car, which until then had been listed as unstable in medium-high-speed sections, now executed curves with a dignified fluidity of a simulator? That's where the detail that many overlooked. In that same sector, the temperature of the rear tires, traditionally a nightmare for Ferrari in 2025, remained stable, within a range of just 5 degrees. In other words, there was no overheating or temperature peaks due to survival or accelerated degradation. The SF25, at least with Hamilton, behaved as a completely different car. To put it in perspective, this is the same car as in previous circuits had forced Leclerc to modify his style to compensate constant tensile losses in acceleration phases. It is the same car that in pre-season was indicated by its difficulty in maintaining a sustainable thermal balance beyond 5 consecutive turns. And now, suddenly, that same machine showed data of mechanical consistency and dynamic control that not even Ferrari hoped to see. But it was not a matter of luck. The context is key. Monza exposes. Naked Monza. There are no low-speed curves where you can hide after aerodynamic load. Here everything depends on the balance in high speeds and the pilot's trust to leave the car naturally flows. Hamilton did not impose his style into the car. He understood it, interpreted it, and adapted it. And that adaptation produced a symphony of data that today continues to generate more questions than answers within the Maranello barracks. And while fans applauded a good career, the real show was lived in telemetry leaves. A silent show, but devastating. The technical proposal was aggressive, a differential configuration that opened more at the curve entrance and blocked more at the output. Translated to the pilot's language, that means that when it reaches a curve, the car becomes more nervous, more prone to slide the rear axle in the initial transition. But if you manage to survive that unstable entry, when leaving the curve you find a more solid, more linear, more direct traction. It is a bet that demands faith and surgical precision. And it was Hamilton who not only accepted this proposal, he perfected it. In free sessions, while other pilots continued to ask for changes to find a more comfortable configuration, Hamilton did something completely opposite. He took the most extreme version of the setup and asked not to be touched. What followed was a series of batches focused on one thing: learn every reaction from the car under that new differential map. Where others would have asked for softness, he asked for rawness. Where others wanted immediate stability, he preferred to read instability and turn it into information. This approach transformed the development process of the SF25 during the weekend. Telemetry data showed that, return to return, Hamilton not only adapted, but actively used the unpredictable behavior of the car as a tool. Instead of fighting the sliding at the entrance of curve, he absorbed it as part of his natural rotation. Instead of correcting the survival, I anticipated it with micro-adjusts that maintain stability without interrupting the speed flow. This level of sensitivity is not taught at an engineering meeting. It is built with years of experience and an instinctive understanding of what it means to lead to the limit without losing control. Telemetry revealed that at points as a variant of the Raggia and Ascari, Hamilton applied less steering wheel angle than Leclerc, but came out with greater speed. This is not only a trust indicator. It is a practical demonstration that its reading of the car was more efficient, that his safety margin was broader, because he had created it from Friday. But the most revealing was how that configuration, considered by many within the team as too demanding for career conditions, ended up working impeccably throughout the distance of the Grand Prix. The SF25 not only did not degrade acceleratedly, he maintained the thermal consistency and the balance of balance return after return, without the need for adjustments from the steering wheel or additional intervention of compensatory electronic systems. What Ferrari had designed as an experiment became a validation, but not by itself, but because Hamilton was the catalyst. Because it took a technical idea and raised it to the competitive plane with a level of execution that no other pilot in the team, until now, has been able to replicate. This result opens an internal crack inside Maranello, because it raises an uncomfortable question that cannot be answered with simulations or data sheets. How much of the real performance of this car depends on the pilot, and not on the car itself? Modern Formula One is not only defined by chronometers, it is defined by contrasts. For how two pilots with the same car can deliver such similar results in time, and so different in meaning. In Monza, that comparison reached its most acute point between Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Two styles, two mentalities, two pilot philosophies faced on the track, but even more evident in telemetry. The raw numbers will say that Leclerc and Hamilton were separated by just 43 thousandths of a second classification. A difference so small that in other contexts it would seem irrelevant. But in Monza, it was a revealing window, because how it reached that time was diametrically opposite between them. While one squeezed every millimeter of the path with surgical aggressiveness, the other wove a network of precision and constancy. The war was not tense, it was philosophy. But the deepest difference was reflected in the thermal behavior of the car. Under the aggressive style of Leclerc, the temperature peaks on the rear axle showed an amplitude of up to 12 degrees between sectors. With Hamilton, that difference did not exceed 5. Why does this matter? Because in a car as delicate as the SF25, thermal stability is directly proportional to sustained yield. In other words, while Leclerc struggled against the degradation back after return, Hamilton ran over her. Even the inputs behind the wheel reflect this divergence. In curves such as parabolica, Leclerc executed constant corrections, seeking the exact point of balance between subfiring and rotation. Hamilton, on the contrary, applied a single progressive address, without the need for additional adjustments. That not only indicates greater confidence, it indicates a deeper understanding of how the car wants to be carried, and not how the pilot wants to take it. This contrast puts an uncomfortable truth on the table for Ferrari. When you have two elite pilots, but each one needs a completely different car to maximize their performance, which one do you choose to develop? He who delivers speed in extreme situations but demands technical stability? Or the one who adapts his style to exploit any mechanical base, even a committed? Monza was the race where Ferrari was exposed. Not for a defeat, not for a strategic error, not for a catastrophe in boxes, but for something much quieter and deeper. It was Lewis Hamilton's unexpected performance that uncovered something that had been in silence for months within Maranello. The SF25 is not as limited as it was believed. Simply, not everyone can unlock it. Until that time, the official speech of the team was clear. The problems of the car were structural. Lack of braking stability, chronic survival in high-speed curves, difficulty keeping rubbers inside their optimal window. An inconstant, temperamental car that needed a deep redesign to be able to compete with McLaren and Red Bull. But Monza's career questioned each of those points, not from the theory, but from the execution. And that is what hit Ferrari stronger. It's not just that Hamilton operated an extreme configuration, is that it made it work better than any other previous solution, even those more conservative, more comfortable, better known by the team. The pilot who had been with Ferrari for just a few months achieved, in a single weekend, to reconfigure the technical perception of a year of work. This has generated an internal earthquake. Where is the real potential of the SF25? How much performance is hidden behind too rigid or conservative approaches? But there is more. Monza was not just a technical test. It was a public exhibition. All rival teams saw what Hamilton achieved, and that changes the rules of the game. It is no longer about improving the car in the wind tunnel or finding tenths in the CFD correlation. Now, it is about rediscovering what type of pilot can unlock hidden performance. Ferrari, without looking for him, has revealed to the world that his car has another face. A faster, more stable, more competitive, but also more demanding. This places the team in a very delicate position, because now they have to decide if they adapt the car to a single form of driving, that of Hamilton, or if they continue to look for a hybrid solution that can please both pilots. Because when your car works perfectly, but only in the hands of one of your pilots, then what you have is not a technical problem. It is a strategic decision that you can no longer postpone.